know how they have the old anecdote about screwing up a wet dream. You remember wet dreams when you were a kid, right?
Yeah.
Well, I am the master of that today. Welcome to the Gonzo Radio Show. Gonzo Radio, Sports Desk. I can't get anything right. I'm not Chris Greer. Seated across from me, this I do know. Seated across from me, patiently waiting while we figured out that Restream had rebooted us somehow and that we are now streaming live 24 minutes late. But thank you for your patience, all three of you that are sitting there watching us.
We're all about the Restream anyway, right? The ultimate Restream.
And they're on the IM right now going, are you guys on today? You guys doing a show today? I don't know. I'm waiting for the text messages to start. But hola, señor Maz.
Hello, good sir.
¿Cómo estás?
Muy bien. Doing fine.
And that's about as far as he goes.
Yeah. I got a few vowels and a few cuss words, but that's about it.
And you know how to say ahora.
If we cuss in Spanish on the show, does that count for having to add to the? Okay.
We are huge. We have literally dozens of viewers in the Miami market, so at least 3 or 4 of them.
So that
Spanish.
would count. Yeah. Okay. Got it.
But speaking of the Miami market, it's a good week to be a fan of the Miami Dolphins.
Yes.
Is it safe to say we can call Miami Dolphins general manager Chris Greer a genius?
Close to it.
I mean, until he gets the GM of the year or the executive of the year hardware. The day before, it was on a Saturday, or no, was it Saturday? Friday. It was Friday.
Friday afternoon. It all hit the fan.
Yeah, and he executed a trade, two trades. It's been a busy week for the man. The man's been trading and cutting and throwing people around and making decisions and making moves. But Friday, okay, to set the story for you, on Friday, I was scheduled to go have lunch with some friends of mine, Mark and Rachel. Hi, Mark and Rachel. How you doing?
Hi, Mark and Rachel.
We went over to this lovely little authentic Mexican joint down in Pompano Beach off of Dixie Highway. Great burritos, great tacos, the street tacos. They're just, with the cilantro and anyway, I digress. As I'm getting ready to walk out, and of course, the TV is on ESPN, and they get the big breaking news ticker, and I'm like, oh, let's pause for a second. I've literally got the remote in my hand. I'm getting ready to walk out the door. Breaking news. The Miami Dolphins have traded the number 3 pick in this year's NFL college draft to the San Francisco 49ers. And needless to say, I go from, ooh.
Yeah, there was a few more oohs on top of those oohs.
Yeah.
Because that was only the beginning.
Yeah, that was only the beginning because as I walked out to my truck and I'm tooling down the road on my way to lunch, I pull into the parking lot. I'm listening to Crowder and Hockman on WQAM on The Joe. I'm not going to say anything bad just in case they want to hire us.
Yeah, please.
We'd be fabulous.
Yeah, I make great coffee. By the way.
He does. He does make great coffee. Yeah. And he'll stop off at Dunkin' Donuts too
every day.
So I'm listening to Crowder and Hockman, and they break the news that the Miami Dolphins are not done slinging draft choices, and then they turned to the Philadelphia Eagles. And they made another trade to go back up to the number 6 spot. They went down to 12. Okay, and in the first trade, they acquired a 2022 first rounder, a 2023 first rounder, a 2022 third rounder. Okay, that's a good haul and they switched back to 12. Great haul, fantastic, beautiful.
It's incredible.
I would have been thrilled with that. That would have given the Dolphins 2 first-round draft choices for the next 3 years.
This is how I gauge those sorts of moves real quick because you're on a roll. But That would never be allowed to be done in Madden. Like, you could never make that trade in Madden, because if you did, you'd get letters from like EAS headquarters telling you, you'd be like, no, listen, we don't allow sharks to play our game or manipulate the software. All right, continue. I just wanted to
who
throw
are
it
you?
out
Are you
there.
really Chris Greer? You know,
If you measure your trades up against the EA Sports allowance and what they'll, permissible trades in Madden, man, Dolphins were like, no matter how many times you kept hitting X, it's reject. No way. They're to start smoking.
Won't allow that.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
So we had figured that the taking advantage of John Lynch. By the way, I always thought that John Lynch was a really, really smart general manager, and everything that he's done up to this point has been very smart. Even the Jimmy Garoppolo thing has kind of fallen through because he can't be responsible for the guy getting hurt.
Leaders in the locker room generally translate to potential leaders on the sidelines.
Right.
In some form.
And listen, the Garoppolo thing, when Garoppolo was healthy, the 1 year with San Francisco that he was healthy, they went 13-3 and went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay, they got beaten in the Super Bowl, but they went 13-3 and they went to the Super Bowl.
They were potentially, if you remember, a missed deep completion away
from winning that,
perhaps winning that Super Bowl. If Jimmy lets that ball go maybe a second sooner or a second late, whatever the case may
it
be,
could have changed the complexion of the game.
History of the NFL changes potentially, and then obviously his career and path certainly changes as well.
Right.
So,
but instead, Mr. Garoppolo, who is plagued by ye old high ankle sprains.
Yeah.
Okay, this seems to be a problem with some players. Some players have the high ankle sprain is more up on the shin area, and that's when there's a separation of the plate bone from the front end of the ankle to your shiba. It's
recovery time for that is usually at least 4 to 6 weeks.
Annoying.
Yeah, compared to when you just roll it and you're out for a week and a shot and you're back and playing.
Right, and ironically, this past season, when the Dolphins went out to San Francisco to play the 49ers, Jimmy Garoppolo they think he may have rushed to come back. He definitely wasn't himself because the Dolphin defense housed him, beat him up, intercepted him 3 times, sacked him like 4 times, and crushed them.
I'm not sure. Most people, I think, have the perception that Jimmy is a mobile quarterback, and he really isn't terribly mobile.
No.
I mean, he's athletic. He looks athletic. He'll
can
throw it a
run
mile.
a little bit, but
yeah, he's a slider more than he is any guy that you can build some sort of moving offense around.
Right.
That's why this addition, I think the difference in mobility alone under Shanahan is going to really help them.
Most definitely. So the Dolphins had pulled off, Chris Greer had pulled off a trade that on its face people would have been thrilled about. But oh no, it seems that the Miami Dolphins have a specific player in mind because they felt the need to move back up to the number 6 spot and trade with the Philadelphia Eagles. It cost them not the San Francisco
It's incredible what they did.
first-round draft choice.
But the pick they acquired in
their first-round draft choice.
It's incredible.
Which they are hoping and they're speculating that if they can win 10 or 11 games, will be in the 20s. If they can go to the playoffs, it'll be in the 20s. Okay? Because 18 is right where the last team that qualified for the playoffs and didn't make the playoffs, that's where 18 and up. And the Dolphins were that one team. Everybody else in the conference made the playoffs.
Right.
So they traded their first-round draft choice in 2022, along with swapping 4th and 5th round draft choices. I think this year. There's a lot of jujitsu.
Yeah, it's insanity when they pull away. Yeah.
But initially, the stories came, pouring out. Adam Schefter was like, the Miami Dolphins have officially turned the Laramie Tunsil trade into 4 first-round draft choices. Well, now that number's come down to 3, but it has still kept them in the top 10. They are now sitting at number 6. They have also acquired an extra 3rd-round draft choice, which, by the way, was San Francisco's compensatory pick for losing their defensive coordinator to the Jets. And we're now in a situation where the speculation is running wild because the thought process is that the first 5 picks are going to be 4 quarterbacks and Penny Sewell, who is the left tackle for the Oregon Ducks, who is a once-in-a-generation left tackle, everybody says. Yeah. So at number 6, my thought I don't know what your thoughts are, but at number 6, the Miami Dolphins are going to take tight end in name only Kyle Pitts from the University of Florida.
Kid's a beast.
I mean, he's Megatron.
Yeah.
He's Megatron. He is 6'6", 245 pounds, runs a 4.46 40, got a catch radius of about, I don't know, 12 feet. He's got he is a talk about. There's a lot of transcendent players in this in the top half of this draft, and you'll probably find a few more later on in the draft, at the end of the first round, at the beginning of the second round. But what you're seeing right now is they moved up for a specific player.
What's amazing about the Dolphins is what they're able to do. Their plan was to be able to not only acquire talent through the draft, because you see they didn't make any free agent moves because they don't want to have to spend the money.
Barely, right?
Granted, I'm sure a lot of the free agents that were out there could have helped the Dolphins at short term.
Immensely.
Short term. But again, this isn't a short-term plan, even though you're getting success in the short term, which is what...
They picked up Will Fuller.
Which I really like. I mean, that's another guy who, remember, you didn't have Alan Hearns last year. He opted out. That's another experienced veteran-type guy that can catch the ball. So that was the original plan for Tua: develop, put guys around him with NFL experience, guys that could help him mature and develop. Well, they've done that and gotten better with everybody that they've brought into the organization via the draft last year, and certainly during his tenure. This year is going to be no different. They have so many picks, and this is the beauty of it. We talked about the business of football. Is if you don't have to pay your guys a lot of money, you can spread it around. So everybody gets a piece of the pie, all the talent, everybody on that roster gets paid, at least in the short term, because you don't have to fess up and pay those big, not only free agent contracts, but having to pay, way over inflated contracts for guys that you're going to, again, on their second time around or even third time around, when these guys deserve to get paid, but they don't necessarily fit into the Dolphins system right now. So they're swinging for the fences and they're hitting home runs.
Well, Chris Greer is playing chess while everybody's playing Chinese checkers. It seems that way. If it works out, a lot of people gave his draft last year, especially the first 6 picks that he had, because he had 3 in the first and 2 in the second, and his third round draft choice, Jason Strobridge from North Carolina, who was supposed to be a pretty good edge rusher, got hurt real early. Right. He got hurt in like the 4th play of the first game, and he was out for the season. So a lot of people seem to forget he's going to be coming back.
Right.
Okay, that's a little bit of talent returning on the defense. But one thing that people seem to forget is the opt-outs from last year due to COVID. Okay, especially 2 particularly important opt-outs being Albert Wilson and Alan Hearns, wide receivers. 2 different kinds of wide receivers. Right. I mean, Wilson is a Swiss Army knife. He's a motion guy, a slot guy. He can go all over the place. He can take the jet sweeps.
Do you know who reminds me of, going back as a Steeler reference, like an Antoine Randall L type player?
Oh yeah,
a guy that can also return punts.
Oh, for sure.
He's got a lot of speed. Shifty type guy, same body style. Yeah, for sure.
No doubt about that.
So in a system where you could use that sort of talent, then he's certainly a big plus for your team.
And Hearns is a route runner.
Right.
Hearns is a precise route runner. He has been since he was at the University of Miami. Yeah. He was part of that team that went to the AFC Championship game with the Jaguars. He and Allen Robinson.
Again, leadership in the locker room where it's needed with a lot of young guys. And those sorts of leaders that are on that team, you don't have to pay a ton of money to.
Right.
Because they're on the back ends of their back ends of their careers. Serviceable players that can still contribute, but more so not just on the field, but in the locker room as well.
Right. And you also have Preston Williams returning.
Yes.
Who is also a big body receiver. That's the reason why, folks, that you didn't see the Miami Dolphins throw money at Kenny Golladay like the New York Giants did. Will it be a mistake? Who knows? The problem with throwing money at guys on their second or third contract is as you get older, you get more prone to injuries and things like that, things of that nature. And quite frankly, the only big free agent that the Dolphins were interested in went back to Green Bay, period. Aaron Jones said, nope, going back to Green Bay. And they signed him to a pretty competitive contract to come back to Green Bay, to run it back. So that was pretty much their big chip. Maybe Allen Robinson.
Right.
Okay, now the concentration is coming on the future. You have a lot of players coming up that you're going to have to sign to either an extension or their second contract if you want to keep them within the system. Being linebacker Chris Baker, who has proven himself to be that borderline Pro Bowl excellent playmaker linebacker. Okay, and a really, really versatile inside linebacker. He's the guy who calls the signals. Okay, they initially gave the job to Kyle Van Noy, and then they turned around and gave it back to Chris Baker because the kid knows the defense. You have him. You have Mike Gesicki, who, if you are picking Kyle Pitts, that kind of gives you leverage in your negotiations with Mike Gesicki.
Sure.
But you still want to re-sign Mike Gesicki as you come up into his fourth and fifth year option.
Kid's really good,
He's
too.
He's really good.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with having two really good tight ends on your team. I think Tampa did that last year. How'd that work out for them?
And just ask New England about it.
Yeah.
I mean, before Hernandez turned out to be a gangster psychopath, they won 2 Super Bowls with 2.
It's becoming and
really
has
good tight
become
ends.
over the last 6, 7, 8 years, even maybe around when Gronk came into the league. It's an important position on the field. It's versatile.
Oh, yeah.
People don't understand the tight end position. You're thinking, touchdowns, Gronk, receptions, whatever. The average tight end only sees about 4 targets a game.
Yep.
Okay, but the thing is they're in every play because it's run play, it's pass blocking, it's a lot of different things that they do that makes them so important. And you're getting these guys coming out like Gesicki and other guys that are Pitts, 6'4", 6'5",
Dallas
6'6",
Goedert.
athletic, can run 4.4s. These guys are just beasts.
Mo Ali Cox.
Yeah, and can do anything on the field. There's so much. Jonnu Smith, just a big trade. There's so many guys in that body style now in prototype because that position and its importance on the offense is becoming critical.
Oh, yeah.
Because everybody's got one now.
Austin Hooper.
Yeah, everybody's got one now.
Yeah.
Dolphins are killing it right now, and their plan is working, and their draft picks are hitting, and the business model is ideal.
But they're seeing the future come. And that's one of the reasons why they didn't spend big money.
Because they don't have to. The Dolphins don't have glaring holes. When you go to free agency, you're trying to fill holes.
And they did.
And that forces you to sometimes reach, like perhaps you mentioned the Galladay and the Giants. Now, Galladay's a great receiver, and he's going to tremendously help Daniel Jones.
Yep.
But that's why they got Galladay, because they needed to fill a specific hole. The Dolphins are creating a team where they don't have necessarily any holes. All they have is depth and talent. And that's why they can afford to take chances when it comes to moving players, re-signing players, because they know they've got a stockpile behind them, and that gives them a huge advantage. Well, it's just Dolphins are doing it right. Dolphins are going to be very viable for a very long time.
They also have another player coming up who is, I considered him to be an every other year guy, Devontae Parker. It seems like every other year now he's having a
Monster
good season.
Seasons, yeah.
And last year, I will give him this. Last year, he used to be very injury prone, and he used to be very brittle, and he used to be made of glass. I mean, he was a chandelier. He's a crystal chandelier. He little chip off, and he'd be out for 3 weeks. Yeah. Why? He stubbed his pinky toe on the coffee table in the middle of the night. Okay,
that's how I broke my pinky toe.
Right, exactly.
It hurt like
crap hurts.
Yeah.
But last year he showed us some toughness because he fought through some bad injuries. He was really, truly hurt, okay? And he came in and he played well, had 4 or 5 catches a game, but he didn't have the burst. He didn't have the over the top. He didn't have the separation that he normally gets, but he made up for that with route running and grit and the ability to improvise. So his extension is coming up. This is the final year of his contract, the extension that he signed 2 years ago.
Think about,
we might want to keep him.
We just talked about the depth of the Dolphins. I mean, you mentioned Wilson coming back, Hearns coming back, Devontae Parker going into the draft and getting the tight end. Tua is going to have a lot of support around him. So
tons.
It's going to be up to him, certainly, to take that next step, and they have enough confidence in him. And a lot of guys coming out said he was the guy and the most accurate quarterback, and maybe they run a West Coast type system where they've got 19 different options at offense to throw the ball to, all great high talent guys, and Tua just flourishes in that system.
Right. Well, listen, there were 2 factors going against him. First of all, his offensive coordinator, Chan Gailey, love you, mad respect. You are one of the best in the history of the NFL. You're an innovator. You were one of the innovators of the spread offense. But the factor that they had with Chan Gailey is every defensive coordinator has seen it. Every defensive coordinator has seen everything that he's got. Everything, period. Okay? The other factor would be 3 rookies starting on the offensive line. That's got to be tough for anybody.
Sure.
So, and we're talking about a team that has an offensive line that went from 31st to 18th. Market improvement.
Huge.
But still lower middle of the pack.
Yeah, but you know what,
still
though?
Leaves you vulnerable.
Here's what you are at 18.
Yeah.
You're in tier 2.
Right.
Okay, and tier 2, when you were not in a tier, is a massive improvement.
Right.
Those numbers, I mean, the differences between, let's say, 13 and 20, they're pretty close.
Right.
So the Dolphins are as good as perhaps the Steelers were last year.
Right.
And you wouldn't think that'd be the case after where they came from.
Right.
So measure them against where they are from certainly where they were last year
Right. Oh,
to the
yeah.
direction they're headed now.
Oh, yeah.
Listen.
When you're 31st, you have no will to impose.
Yeah.
You're just out there and hoping you don't die.
Yeah.
Okay. That would be a guy like Fitzpatrick who's really good at improvisation and running for his life. He was having fun behind the 31st ranked offensive line.
Sure.
He was having a blast.
But when you leapfrog half the league,
Yeah.
then people start noticing.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then you're on the map.
3 rookies.
You're on the map.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So they're looking to make an upgrade. They're looking to upgrade the center position. They're looking to offer some competition for right tackle and left guard for Eric Flowers. So they're looking to offer a little competition and to upgrade that line and hopefully get it into the top 10 as far as rankings in the NFL. Once you get, and of course, Tua, listen, there's a laundry list of excuses for him, but the biggest one is the dude got himself into shape to be able to be on the field. Okay, he had a catastrophic injury. I was one of the biggest people that were like, no, don't draft him. Trade down. Don't draft him. Draft somebody else. Draft Herbert. Draft Jalen Hurts. He's hurt. He had. You remember when Bo Jackson got that microfracture in his hip socket? Mm-hmm. That was the end of Bo Jackson. He rehabbed himself and struggled to come back and play football and then baseball for 5 more years, and that was it.
Yeah.
He was done.
And that was unfortunate.
Okay, and that was a massive.
But that was 30,
strength of will.
30 years ago, science and medicine.
Right.
It's a little different now.
I totally understand. Still a catastrophic injury.
Yeah.
Still a catastrophic.
I get it.
I mean, young man was listed in the Alabama press guide as 6 foot tall, 205 pounds. That guy that was on the field last year did not weigh 205 pounds.
He was like
190, 185.
Well, they weighed him with pads.
Okay, yeah, exactly.
So, I mean, and probably the helmet, too.
Right.
Yeah.
And a couple of rocks in his pocket.
Yeah.
Okay, but he got himself in shape to be on the field. And one thing that I've noticed, and he's been more than happy to show everybody on Instagram and on social media, his workouts. And what you're going to notice is more of a Russell Wilson type of body and a Russell Wilson type of quarterback this year. I'm high on Tua.
It sounds like it. That's a tough comparison, but that sounds like it.
Now,
listen, they're doing it right. I'm sure the doctors and the medical staff, that team, the entire team organization has got it going on in the right direction. I'm sure they're treating Tua. They maybe a little bit of kid gloves last year because, again, they knew who they are and who they were.
Oh, yeah.
And now they know who they want to be and their plans being executed to get to that point.
He took his knocks last year.
Yeah.
One thing that a lot of people seem to forget about the Buffalo game, which was a disaster, they got blown out. And Buffalo's going to find out that Tua doesn't forget these things because now for going forward, every chance that Tua gets a chance to blow Buffalo out, he's going to take that opportunity.
Yeah.
So
good luck with that. Buffalo's pretty good though.
It's okay.
Their defense isn't great, but they'll get better this year too.
For now.
Yeah. Well,
that's
listen,
fine.
There's a lot more we can talk.
Now's your time, Buffalo.
This whole show could be football. The only thing I want to mention, one more thing about football and free agency is, you know what? Free agency in the NFL is a little shady, in my opinion.
A little bit.
Okay, there's deadline, or not deadlines, there's start dates. Okay, you can't start free agency until March, whatever it was, 9th, I guess it was. Was that the date that officially it started? 13th?
March 14th,
12, 14th. Okay,
yeah.
whatever the date was. These deals are getting done on the 15th. Okay, so or whatever the day is after the official day
They're
starts.
agreeing to terms.
Okay, all right. Listen, it's all shade. These guys are talking. Everybody,
Sure.
They're well aware of what's happening
Certainly.
beforehand. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't see. But free agency, Dolphins, they're going to be a force this year. This is the irony. Over the last 15 years since the Patriots' domination, that division has been, outside of the Patriots, known as one of the weakest divisions in football. That is not the case anymore.
No.
Outside of maybe the Jets, which you would hope and assume that eventually they'd get things in the right direction. Obviously, the Bills,
Joe Douglas,
the Patriots, in 2 days spent guaranteed $170 million or something in 2 days. That's just guaranteed money.
Oh, yeah.
And then re-signed and signed free agency 23 players.
Bill's pissed.
They're going to be in the discussion. The Bills won the division last year, and what the leap he made in talent and what that team has done, they're going to be around for a while. And the Dolphins, certainly we've talked about, are going to be extremely viable and in the conversation for years to come. So that division is now going to be as competitive as any division in the AFC moving forward for years.
That's true.
That's good
now,
for the NFL.
Before we deflect away from football,
yes,
because we've still got a month to the draft, something that is associated with the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa is the Deshaun Watson situation.
Wow.
Holy crap.
Talk about coming out of left field. And as a side note, if you notice, all my analogies are baseball related. Swing for the fences, out of left field. It's just a habit. I'm sorry.
Don't worry. We'll get to baseball.
What the hell is going on? We talked about this. The scariest part, and everybody knows what's going on about all the allegations, all the different women, and just coming out of nowhere. The scariest part of all this is that Deshaun Watson was able to portray to everybody that I am this person. Okay, everybody had great things to say about
right
him.
out the gate.
Leadership, locker room personalities, no conflicts, good guy. I heard family man, a church, all these accolades
right
about
out the gate.
Deshaun Watson. And here you are with, what is it, up to 14 now? 14 women? Okay,
it's like 16 or
17
now.
Okay, growing and growing and growing. Okay. I use the UFO reference. Only one of these have to be accurate for it to be a totally different picture and depiction of who this guy might be. And that's scary for me because that's sociopath behavior. That's a guy that can, certainly thrive extremely at a high level in all these different aspects of his life, including this one.
Yep.
Scary, dude. It's unfortunate. The first couple that came through, you were hoping, whatever, maybe these women are just trying to make a buck. It happens, all right? Maybe there's,
it happens.
I'm not saying he's totally at fault.
They do have a sensationalist lawyer.
They do know who Deshaun Watson is.
Yeah.
It's not like this guy is, some just Joe Blow. So usually there's culpability on both sides when it comes to maybe at least on the onset, two adults consenting, and then it gets to a point where somebody has to be the real adult. And Deshaun apparently has blown through that numerous times, and to me, that's just unexcusable.
Well, listen, there's a few things here, okay? I'm just being a devil's advocate because I do not like victim shaming when it comes to sexual assault or sexual abuse or manipulation, or however you want to put it.
Right.
But some of these women have been holding on to these allegations for 2+ years. First of all, 2 years. Okay, they were afraid to come out. They were told that they could ruin their careers, they could lose their jobs, all of the above. 2+ years. Okay. Secondly, the representation for Mr. Watson is now starting to pull the threads on some of these accusations, and some of these young women are left wanting. They are being proven to be false allegations, false accusations. They are proven to be, unfortunately, when a victim gets put under the microscope, every time that you've had a sketchy date, every time that you've done something a little bit sketchy, that's going to get, if Watson is being put in the light of day,
you're going to be
out in that blinding white light too.
And you know what? That's probably part of the reason why some of these women maybe not come out.
Sure.
But that's not a knock on the women. I mean, we all have skeletons in our closets. It doesn't change the fact.
I'm a stripper. I mean,
you can make bad decisions your whole life, and then your next step be somebody else's bad decision. That doesn't take away what's happened. And I know that's not what you're saying, but again, I'd like to leave it at there's culpability, at least on the onset, to both parties. Because, again, at least in this situation, I mean, it's not like he ran it behind him, smacked him in the head. We mentioned the Cosby reference and how they may relate.
And there are some them and violated them.
Smack him over the head, bring him back to your cave, and obviously, whatever, bad things happen there. That's not what happened, I don't think, in these situations. Again, it started out as a conversation, an agreement, a meeting, an event, and then in decisions where they then come to, well, again, like I mentioned, morality, a no is a yes, and how I perceive it. And again, it gets sideways from there. And not knowing all the details, I don't think we have to, because there's so many of these relatable, similar stories that start out that way and end this way. And I'm just saying, when it got to be this way at the very end, it is a total different picture or image of what everybody had of Deshaun Watson.
Right.
And that's the part here that is so uneasy and unsettling to make me then go to the next step and say, how do you come back from something like this? Especially in a sport where, and rightfully so, women shaming, women abuse, sexual abuse, all these things is looked upon so unfavorably. And again, rightfully so, in the NFL, where it's such a difficult image to shake. Because, again, the common person, NFL, and they're going to look at this story, we knew it was coming. I mean, all the naysayers and all the people that want to just jump on and say athletes are bad role models. And
this came out of left
and
field,
that.
though.
Agreeable so. And again, doesn't lessen the effect of what it's going to be. I'm saying it's going to make things even worse. It's going to feed into those stereotypes where athletes are bad people. And again, nobody saw this coming. He is potentially a bad person. We're not going to, say he's not.
Well, we're all potentially bad
people. But unfortunately, this is really bad.
Listen, you could analyze my life, and I am firmly confident, if I'm being 100% honest, you would be able to see the totality of my life, and I'm over 90% happy with what's going on. There's been some shady happenstances in my life. I have been caught in circumstances in my life.
You wouldn't be human if you didn't.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody's got foilables and failings.
Sure.
Everybody makes mistakes, especially in my youth. Oh my God, what an idiot.
Sure.
But
there's a
I'm
difference.
the first person to say they're an idiot, and in most cases, I made amends for some of those idiotic things. But I didn't. I can honestly say that the only time, and I will fully admit that I have grabbed a woman's hand and put it on my junk. But you know what? That was my girlfriend. And you know what? My girlfriend did it more times than I did. Okay, so...
But that, certainly, I mean, that's
and
normal
I have
stuff.
been grabbed and groped more times than any human male has the right to be grabbed and groped, okay, because of the choice of my profession. And I happen to work with a bunch of young women that sometimes they get a little liquored up, and you are not safe. Okay, I mean, come on, how many times do we got our ass grabbed during the course of the evening?
Well, hopefully not too many, but it does happen. You know what happens, unfortunately? Men. There's a lot of men that come into our clubs that I think they enter the wrong door.
No men grabbing my ass.
It's awkward.
Hey.
But again, what you're saying, though, in terms of skeletons in our closet, there's a difference between making bad decisions and then someone...
serial behavior.
Getting hurt, whether it's you, whether it's somebody else.
Right.
And there's a huge difference between that and, let's say, somebody imposing their will on someone, taking advantage of someone, hurting someone intentionally, because that's what your beginning to end process is, a plan in which you are going to come out ahead.
Right.
By any means necessary.
There's a difference between playing and violation.
Yeah, it's not a good look, and unfortunately, like I said, more women seem to be piling on, if that's indeed what they're doing, then shame for them, because there's no room for that either.
Right.
To me, that is also a very highly offensible act, that you're going to take advantage of somebody when they're down, regardless of whatever that person did. If you're not in the fight, okay, then get out. Okay, get out. Don't try and take a cheap shot.
No.
But one of them, of the increasingly numbers that are growing of women that are coming out and repeating similar stories. Only one has to paint a picture of something that no one saw coming.
Still waiting for the criminal charges to be filed. I'm waiting for them to file criminal charges. So far they're all civil suits. All their civil charges, their civil accusations. So the criminal charges, then you got to prove something.
Yeah.
You can just talk and say and have circumstantial evidence for a civil suit.
Sure.
And establish a pattern of behavior.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that happens too, because girls want checks, and guys and more than often than not, unfortunately, guys, what do they have to do? They have to pay to keep it quiet.
Go away.
It's easier in today's world
Right.
to kind of accept whatever fate is cast upon you, and then if you have the means, you write a check.
Well, here's a really good one. The attorney for the victims, the alleged victims, has been accused of being a good buddy of the owner of the Houston Texans, Cal McNair. They live in the same neighborhood. They live along the same rich guy street, wealthy, upper income, upper level, whatever, rich people's enclave in suburban Houston. But he claims that he does not know Cal McNair. Now, here's a little something shady. Here's the conspiracy theorist in me.
This is like an A&E movie right now, this entire thing.
Here's the conspiracy theorist in me, okay? It's a gangster move. It's a gangster move by McNair, okay? You get him dirtied up. You get him, make him look like a villain, and then the team comes to his rescue. We're going to help you out. We're going to take care of you. We're going to help exonerate you because you're our guy. We're going to show you loyalty. We're going to stick with you, Deshaun. And then he's going to be obligated to stick with them because they stuck with him. And then the NFL, which we all know, the NFL, like I said last week, the NFL is more thorough than the FBI sometimes. Okay,
they will find out any of this sort of behavior.
Right.
You know what? That script is movie type stuff.
Exactly.
And I get it. But I'm hoping that grown men making grown men decisions don't formulate plans like that.
They're shady layers.
It would be incredible.
It's unseemly.
To me, that seems like a connect the dots type thing where you're trying to, like the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon
6
or 7
degrees of separation.
whatever the hell it is. Yeah. Where for sure. Yeah, that makes sense. But when you peel
it back,
there's
aliens.
Yeah. Well, I got alien stuff I want to bring up after. But we're not there yet.
At the end of the show.
I know. You mentioned it, so I'm just spinning it. All right.
Segue.
Hey, we got what?
Let's segue. Let's change sports. Let's change from crime.
Let's go to the hoops real quick.
And go to sports. Let's go to the NBA.
I told you.
Because everybody was real excited about the NBA trade deadline, and there were all kinds of top flight players flying all over the place. And then the NFL turned around and said, hold my beer on Friday, and said, here, let me steal a little bit of your thunder. But could you let the people know a little bit about some of the fun stuff that happened on Wednesday?
Well, our beloved Miami Heat.
Yeah, sorry, this is a little bit of a Miami-centric show. We are down in South Florida. Sorry, kids.
I think pulled off just another typical Miami Heat move where they're not desperate.
Two.
Well, the Oladipo move for me is just, phenomenal. This guy, again, it takes the pressure off of Jimmy. It allows our guards like Nunn to continue to develop where he doesn't necessarily have to handle the ball all the time because I don't think that's really what, even though he is a point guard, Dragic was still getting 30 minutes a night because when he would come off the bench, it was him handling the ball.
Right.
So I think what that does, it just enables Spo to be more versatile while giving up, like we said, Dolphin style, not giving up the farm. They traded Kelly Olynyk and they traded
Avery Bradley,
who never played.
Useless.
Never played.
The guy played one game.
Kelly Olynyk is a Miami Heat legend, okay? We do love Kelly.
He's all right.
Sunshine was important to the team, okay?
He's all right.
But Oladipo is a top 15 type player.
Sunshine.
Top 15, 20 type player in the NBA right now. And again, it does not matter seeding. I will say this again for playoffs this year, as you saw last year. Hottest team in the playoffs last year was Sacramento, okay? So, I'm sorry, Phoenix last year. Phoenix. So again, seeding at this point, still no fans. The Heat are going to be a tough out. no matter who they match up against, because they're one of the few teams in the NBA that still plays defense. And, oh, by the way, Oladipo was, I believe, at least once or twice first-team All-NBA defensive player. No shock there.
Surprise.
So guess what? Perfect fit for the Heat. So interesting second half of the NBA. I think they're going to get their guys healthy. They've had some injuries and COVID-related stuff. But no matter where the Heat fall, and I think they're a game under 500 right now. So actually, I think they're looking into the playoffs. I think they're maybe the 8 or 9. They're floating around that.
They are at the back end. They are, I believe, they're going to fluctuate between the 8 and the 9 seed.
Yeah, but I think ultimately where it shakes out, they'll be 6-7, 5-6-7, somewhere in there. And again, as if it's Milwaukee, they've shown they can beat them. If it's Toronto, if they happen to be, that 3-4 seed, and that's the matchup, not scared there either. Boston, again, they've shown glimpses the last couple of weeks. They're playing better. Again, I think we match up against them well too. So it's getting the guys ready in the next 30 games or so before the playoffs start.
Oh, yeah.
Getting everybody gelled together, getting everybody healthy, manage some minutes down the stretch here, and then just get ready for the playoffs. I think the Heat are going to be very viable in the East.
They're going to be. They're going to be beyond viable. What they've done is they have made moves to match up with the Brooklyn Nets. It's just as simple as that. Who, by the way, stole LaMarcus Aldridge. Aldridge wants to go for a ring. He wants to get his ring before he retires.
It makes sense. I mean,
he's 45 years old, so he wants to get his 25 minutes a game in playing center.
Yeah.
And be able to lumber down the floor and shoot the three from the top of the key.
The thing is with him at this point, he's not really a back to the rim guy. So even though the Nets needed a little bit of size inside, he'll play the 5. I mean, that's what they'll list him at. But he really is a power forward. So, but that's the style that they play. And you're only going to get 25 minutes. He's going to come off the bench, which is, again, it'll be a viable 25 minutes that they'll need. I think the Lakers are going to pull off getting Drummond. And if you're looking at the Nets and perhaps the Lakers going back, which most people are saying now, Drummond for the Lakers, that's going to be a good haul for them. I mean, the rich get richer. So, again, that's a guy who doesn't necessarily defend that well either, but he will fill the stat line. He will get you 15 boards. He shoots a high percentage around the rim.
He can't shoot the 3, though.
Well, but again, they've got a couple of guys that can do that. And if they get healthy, which, again, getting LeBron is the key, Davis is now, over the last few days, back on the court again. So it looks like he's going to be ready to go again when they need him. Seeding, remember, in the East, as long as the West as well, it doesn't matter. So just get there.
Just get there.
Get there.
Exactly.
And
by the way, the other major player that the Heat made a trade for, and I can barely read the guy's name. It's Nemanja
Bjelica from Sacramento.
Bjelica. Is it called Bjelica?
That's what I call him, Bjelica.
Because it's BJELICA. It's Bielka.
I do phonetics. So anyway, here's him.
That's not his name.
He's a 4. He can shoot the 3. He can rebound.
He's a replacement for Olenek.
No question. No, and that's just fine because you know what? He's also European, and I'll take a European player any day.
That's Riley loves getting them Euros.
So, definitely can play a little bit. He's with a few teams. He was with Minnesota, I think he started with, and then he just came from Sacramento.
Right.
So there's a few teams he's
the recent road trip that we had, he went and lit us up when we went out to Sacramento.
I don't remember the stat line.
I believe he dropped 31 on us. Hang on, they don't have any numbers on that. But
he can shoot.
But they gave up 2 players that really, Silva wasn't really seeing much time.
No.
Except for via injury, because you got Precious Achiuwa, by the way, an excellent rookie. Another solid draft pick. Precious. I mean, it's like, who are these Miami Heat that they get these middling first-round draft choices, and they're scoring hard with these kids?
That's got to be a tough kid, in my opinion. Because growing up with the name Precious, you're getting your ass beat a lot. So,
or you're kicking a lot.
Well, eventually you turn the tide, So
it's like,
then you're
what'd you call me?
Yeah, I'm not Precious anymore.
No, your name is Precious. Yes, it is. Okay,
yes.
I'll let it slide this time.
Have you met my buddy Precious?
But he doesn't. But you don't have that Bielica guy. You don't have that 9 vowels in your name. So
can we just go Bjelica? Because it sounds better.
It's Bielica. It's
one of the few languages or origins, whatever you want to
Sorry if I'm butchering your name and you happen to tune into look, let's go listen to I want to know what the Miami sports shows are saying.
Yes, hey.
And he tunes into us, one of 15 people tuning into the show, and he's like,
who's the guy with the big head?
Why are you
me
butchering
Bajinka?
my name? What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you? Bajinka? No J.
There's no N in my last name.
So anyway, sorry, but Bielaka. Okay, we will find out what his correct pronunciation
I get the feeling he's going to make us know because
Yeah.
you're going to get him out there with Goran. By the way, it's pronounced Dragic.
What I say?
Dragic.
I call him because it is tragic that he's been hurt. So that's why I call him Dragic. Yeah, so I know it's Goran Dragic. So it's Dragic.
Goran Dragic.
Which is related to our friend from Rocky IV. Right?
There you go.
Who, by the way, have you
must
seen
break
him?
you.
He's 84 years old. The dude's read every book in the world, speaks 19 languages, and can still lift a small car. And he's just amazing specimen.
He's got a PhD in chemical engineering, I think it is.
Yeah, he can build bombs, put them on his own rocket that he made in his garage, and fly it himself to the moon if he wanted to, and speak to every country on the way. Smart, big, strong guy.
That reminds me. I have to finish my real estate course today because just talking about him makes me feel stupid.
Rocky IV.
All right. So, the trade deadline came and went, and a lot of major players moved around, and they're still kind of moving around.
Yeah, a few pieces to fit still.
Well, the Heat missed on Larry Nance Jr. They made a big pitch for Jr. But one thing that was a common thread was a lot of these teams that were offering major players to trade with Miami. The first thing, I want Tyler Hero. What about Hero? We're not giving up Tyler Hero.
Yeah, that was the difference.
We're not giving up Duncan Robinson. It's not happening. Get it through your thick NBA skulls, especially you teams that have 15 wins and you're sitting on a superstar. You're not getting. There's a core, and that core, you're not getting it. Okay, you're not. It's just not happening. So forget it. Stop trying to ask. Don't ask for Kendrick Nunn. Okay, don't ask. It's not happening.
No, those guys are locked up contracts.
Yeah.
They're young. We're not paying them a ton, and they're producing, and it works in the system. Again, no different than the Dolphins. The Miami Heat system is intact and has been the working model for years now since the championships. Since obviously bringing.
Well,
Magic 3.
Back to the Dolphins. The trade that they made for Bernardrick. The Bernardrick McKinney.
Careful.
I know. It's like, everybody's got a funnier name than me, which is really great because I got a funny last name. But he is now showing a little bit of enthusiasm. First, he was like, I got traded, but this kid's an inside linebacker. He's a grinder, and we want to improve our run defense. And that's the reason why I say that sometime either with the 18 pick in the first round or sometime in the second round, the Dolphins will be choosing another linebacker, an outside linebacker, somebody who can cover an athletic tight end or a slot receiver, because they are going to concentrate those two inside linebackers on filling those holes in the middle of the line. You're not going to run between the tackles on the Dolphins anymore. So back to baseball.
Yeah.
See, I'm segueing. I'm keeping it moving.
Opening day Thursday.
Yeah.
That's, you know what, from what I can remember, opening day used to always be Sunday night. It used to be a Sunday night game.
Right.
Because, again, how I remember this years
used to
and
take
years
it
and
to
years.
Japan and do an opening night.
Well, sometimes, but usually it used to be Joe Morgan and John Rose. Used to always do the Sunday.
Rest in peace, Joe Morgan.
Yeah. And that was always Sunday night, because this is how I remember this, is because for fantasy purposes, of course everything relates to fantasy, was to count that Sunday night game or not when you were doing your lineups. And most times you didn't, because most drafts were last minute type stuff, and it was always on a Sunday. Matter of fact, I have a draft today, 4:30. A little segue there. But in any case, yeah, so opening day is Thursday, full slate. Can't wait. Probably 1 o'clock, first pitch. I don't know who the actual first pitch game will be, like what actually is the first pitch. It's probably the Vegas line for that. But, yeah, opening day Thursday, can't wait. I've looked ahead for weather. There could be some weather concerns for opening day that we'll have to see. So there could be a few games that'll be questionable weather-wise. But again, that's typical when you have baseball in April and it's an outdoor sport. If you're in the south, you got potential for storms. If you're in the north, you got potential for snow. I mean, there were games a couple of years ago in Colorado, I think, opening the first 2 weeks of the season, every game was below 40 degrees. I mean, it was just awful.
How long has rotisserie baseball, fantasy baseball, been played? It's been since
football started, late 80s probably?
No.
What do you mean rotisserie?
Rotisserie, like fantasy baseball. They used to call it rotisserie baseball.
Oh, well, Stratomatic's been around since the 70s. I mean, I had that game back then, so you want to go that far back?
Right. No, I'm talking about the 60s. Okay. Lest we remember that the origin of fantasy football has gone back as far as the 60s. Okay. With sports writers and journalists and stuff like that. But fantasy baseball has got to have gone back farther than that. Because, I mean, it's been so ingrained in our society and our culture. So they have to have been playing it in the 40s.
In some form, I'm not sure. I mean, again, getting information in real time, certainly the further you go back would make it much more difficult. I remember as early as back when we were doing football, we've talked about this, where we'd have to wait till Monday morning and get the back of the Sun Sentinel newspaper to be able to go through all the stats and do it by hand.
And there would be a lot of yelling on the phone that day.
Yeah. It'd be like, wait a minute. And again, there were times where there were stat corrections would come, like, say, the next day.
Oh, yeah.
And you'd be like, well, that guy got credited with the sack and really was and whatever. So, oh, my gosh. It was, but again, we did it.
You would win on Monday and Tuesday.
And lose on Wednesday.
And
be pissed.
And I can honestly tell you, I have torn the sports section of USA Today in 4 and threw it all around the house. My girlfriend was looking at me like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
And I just went, this is bullcrap. Well, I use a lot of spicier language, but there are a lot of F-bombs. And I ripped it in half, and I put it, come here, and whenever I grabbed it and brought it back, and ripped it in half again. And my girlfriend comes like, what is going on? What is wrong with you?
Yeah, I remember.
She's picking up the pieces of the newspaper going, stop it, stop. So, yeah, I've done that. I've lost on Wednesday when I'm like, I won on Monday. I won on Tuesday. What? So I'm thinking that because of the statistical nature, the nerdy math nerd nature of fantasy baseball, if you will, they had to have been playing it for a long, long time.
I do some research.
There were a lot less teams back in the 40s and 50s, too.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what those. But remember, a lot of these guys playing back then had jobs too. They weren't just guys sitting around the locker room on Sunday, waiting for the game to start. These guys were plumbers and contractors and electricians and everything else. They were working people, factory workers, and then second basemen.
Or like Ted Williams, they were fighter pilots.
Yeah. Not sure how much time there was to pull up the Monday paper and look at
Williams
stats.
Was busy shooting down Korean planes in the Korean War.
Exactly. So
shooting down.
But you know
Germans.
What? It is interesting, and I should know this, and we should know this in terms of the origination, right? Origination. That too, or organization, same word together. Of when fantasy baseball started, fantasy football. I'm just curious to see when that would have been.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's a long time.
I'll look it up. It's interesting.
Long time.
Yeah, opening day Thursday. Looking forward to it. Spring training has been busy. There's been some surprises. There's been some teams. But again, I don't really put a lot of stock in the spring training, especially baseball.
Who's going to be the first overall pick in most drafts?
I looked at the expert drafts. I've been doing it all week.
Right.
And the consensus number one has been Ozzie Albies. I'm sorry, Ronald Acuna. Ronald Acuna has been the consensus number one.
Atlanta Braves. Center fielder?
Yep. Lead off typically, but lead off.
Marlin killer.
Prodigious power, speed. That team's going to be good this year. They're going to score some runs. That lineup's pretty good. So he's been probably number one. But I'll tell you, we just saw before we started the show, ESPN did a special on Juan Soto. Who I've been
talking about him for a little bit,
a couple of years now. Some of the things I've seen him do, and that kid's only 22, and they're measuring him up against some of the greats that have ever played. And there's good reason. He's so good, and that team is going to be good again offensively too.
Sandy Alcantara flat out threw the ball at him last year because he did that little shuffle thing
Yeah.
and stood in the and grabbed his junk.
Yeah, you got pretty upset.
And and he we were at the game, and Russ and I were at the game, and he just next pitch just flat out threw the ball at him.
Yeah, I believe it. Probably at 100 miles an hour too. He can bring it.
Yeah,
yeah, he can definitely bring
and
it.
There was a little harumphing.
Yeah,
but you saw Soto, he was laughing. And now we saw with the spotlight that they put on him today.
They probably grew up in the same town. Those two. I mean, they're probably have cousins that are related.
He's laughing and he's going, "Do you enjoy the?" The reporter was like, "Do you enjoy making pitchers mad?" He goes, "Yeah, it's kind of sure. It's funny. It's like, why are you so mad? Why are you so upset?" It's like, why? Because you are the Dominican Mickey Mantle, for crying out loud.
Yeah, the kid's so good. So we talked about it last week a little bit, was in terms of the guy who, to me, is still the best player in the game until somebody proves it otherwise, is Mike Trout.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been going like 5, and he went 5 in the expert draft. And I think that's a little bit of a slap in the face, considering that offense may be a little better this year.
Little bit of an aside from Mike Trout. He had a foul ball get away from him in a spring training game, and one of the fans deflected the foul ball with his beer can. Okay, deflected. The ball was heading right for a girl in his row's face, and he stuck his hand out with his beer can in his hand and deflected the ball. And I guess the can wasn't open yet, and just beer everywhere, right? He got a standing ovation from the crowd because he sacrificed his beer to save this girl's face.
Well, that's smart.
Okay, 10 minutes later, he gets an autographed bat from Mike Trout.
Nice move.
Classy move.
Nice move.
Classy move.
Yeah. I mean, you would expect nothing less from Mike Trout.
I do nothing but cheer for this kid.
That's the shame of it, is because when you have the best player in a sport that most people are aware of but really don't know and don't understand and the depth of who Mike Trout is.
Well, especially here on the East Coast, because
it's two different worlds.
We never get to see him.
Yeah, and not even just like his talents on the field, but off the field too. He's just a good dude. So, and everybody says that. So, although unfortunately everybody said that about Deshaun Watson too. So
easy.
I know. I mean, I'm not saying
Easy.
Mike Trout's Deshaun Watson.
That's a bad comparison.
No, I'm not comparing him. I'm just comparing the statement of what I just said was that he's a good dude. I mean, I know. I mean, from what you see, from what everybody's saying, and certainly now his talents on the field. You want to see a guy like that in the postseason.
Sure.
And I'm hoping this is the year. Getting Rendon certainly behind him in the lineup is going to help.
And a healthy Ohtani.
A healthy Ohtani. Maybe hopefully they get contributions from the pen this year because they were terrible last year.
Old man Albert.
Yeah. Well, he's top of the lineup with Fletcher. And he's got to get on base a few more times for me.
Alberto Viejo.
Yeah. He'll get some at-bats as well. Yeah, baseball's here Thursday. Can't wait. It's going to be a good year. It's going to be a long season. The players did not want to shorten their season. They had the opportunity to do so, and they said, no, we want to get paid, so they're going to get all their money. So looking forward to it. Thursday, opening day. Let's go. I'm ready.
Listen, we're coming out of this COVID thing, okay? It's happening. I don't want to play politics. I'll just mention that President Joe has been true to his word. He said, everybody's getting a vaccine. And of course, you have a lot of the hoo-hoo people are like, I'm not getting a vaccine. I don't want to be tracked. I'm like, nobody wants to track you. Nobody cares.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. Why do we want to track dumbass Daryl? What are you doing, Daryl? Daryl went to the Walmart for the 3rd time this week.
First of all,
who cares?
Anytime you have this on,
yeah,
you're being tracked.
You're being tracked.
Anything you do, you're being tracked.
Yeah.
Anything you watch on TV, you're being tracked.
Right.
Anytime you pick up your house phone, you're being tracked. So again, being tracked and being the ability to obtain knowledge about you are two different things.
Right.
Because obtaining knowledge, it just sits in a little device about this big. Your life is in that device in some warehouse, wherever they can access it. Maybe it's in a cloud actually somewhere up there. It's there. They can access it if they want to. But just stay out of the way. They won't bother you. They're not going to. They have no time for you, other than what they're already doing.
Right.
So that part of it, I'm not worried about that.
You ain't that important.
I'm just worried about the other potential side effects. Again, I'm on the side of the fence where I don't want to take the shot unless they're going to force me to take the shot to travel, which again I'm in total disagreement with, then I'll fall in line because it's going to help me. But I don't feel like at this point I need the shot. I'm on anti-shot side.
Well, but the point is we're coming out on the other side of this thing.
All of us are,
okay?
yes, regardless if we take the shot or not.
Okay, and we're going to be able to go to ball games,
yes,
and concerts,
live our lives again,
and have our lives back.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, I firmly believe that we're going to have crowds at baseball. We're going to have people at baseball games. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
it's just going to happen.
Eventually, it will.
But before we go, I would be remiss if we did not mention the passing of Coach Howard Schnellenberger, the Pipe, the Man, a prodigious coach, especially in the college ranks. He was the offensive coordinator for the Miami Dolphins on 2 different occasions, including the 17-0 season. He was the head coach briefly for the Baltimore Colts. When he came to town, sure, Russ, just walk on by.
Did you say offensive coordinator for the perfect team?
I'm going to drop an F-bomb on you. Okay, I really am. I'll be living alone soon enough anyway. He might not make it to the end of the day. But anyway, when he came to town, when he came to your university, okay, when he came to your college program got straightened out. It got on the right track.
On the map.
On the map,
yes.
Period.
FAU.
Okay, in 1979, he came to the University of Miami, which was a prodigious football failure. They just were. They just stunk up the joint. They would have an occasional player, O.J. Anderson per se, go to the NFL and succeed and excel, but overall, bad.
They didn't know how to get talent.
They had, let's put it this way, they had Ted Hendricks, okay, in the 60s that played on a 3-10 team. Okay, they were bad. They were a private college.
Recruiting wasn't part of the equation. Yeah.
And when he came here, he established the state of Miami. That's a Schnellenberger thing, the state of Miami. He drew a line on Interstate 4 right across the state and said, none shall pass. All the best football players south of this line are coming to my school. And that's just a fact. Okay? Then he turned around and he grabbed a kid out of eastern Pennsylvania by the name of Jim Kelly and did the nearly unimaginable. Beat the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Powerhouse. Prodigious. Tom Osborne. Wishbone running. Powerhouse. Nebraska Cornhuskers. Beat them in the national championship game in the Orange Bowl and won the national championship. Went from the outhouse to the penthouse in his second year. Who does that?
Yeah.
Okay, who does that? Howard Schnellenberger does that. Okay, then he semi-retired, took a year off after 4 years at the University of Miami.
He rested.
But they were in the national championship mix all 4 years that he was here. He took a year break, and then he went to the University of Louisville and put them on the map in the mid-'80s. Then he took a couple of years off, and he went to the University of Oklahoma, whom had just fired Barry Switzer. He followed Barry Switzer in his prodigious run. And he saved that program because they were dealing with allegations of violations, shall we say. He kept them viable. Then he resigned there, took a few years off, and came down to Boca Raton, Florida, where most people in their 70s go to retire. Came to Boca Raton, Florida, came to a little college off Glades Road, Florida Atlantic University. They barely had a football field. They had to play some of their games. They had to play their home games at Lockhart Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, 20 miles away, or 15 miles away. And he put that program on the map. Mm-hmm. He recruited. He knew he wasn't going to be able to draw blue chip national prospects. So he went and he found talented kids. He found talented kids that weren't going to get a chance. He found talented kids that were academically at risk. And he brought them to Florida Atlantic University. He got them help with their schoolwork. He got these young men to get their college education.
He provided leadership.
He provided leadership. And at this point, a father figure or a grandfather figure.
Whatever it was. But a lot of kids need that and don't have that in their lives.
Right.
In athletics, certainly. And he provided that every level, every step of the way, in every program.
And he was their athletic director for a while.
Yeah.
He put that entire athletic program on the map. Okay, he knew the importance of baseball. Their baseball team got very good. Didn't you play for FAU back in the day?
Yeah.
Okay.
91.
Their baseball team got very, very good. Their baseball program got very good. Yeah. Easy, Grandpa. 91.
Wow.
Yeah.
What happened in 91?
It's a good thing you shave your head.
Can I say something about years? This is totally off base, but I look at IDs sometimes of people that come into our establishment. And for the first time in my life, I've seen IDs where people were born in the year 2000. I didn't think anybody was born in the year 2000, actually, because that's like, I mean, what, 2000? You're born when? The year 2000?
The who, what, where, what?
I remember looking ahead to the year 2000 and thinking to myself, obviously turn of the century and all these things were happening. And for me, I was turning 30 in the year 2000. And I was thinking to myself, in your teens, you're like, wow, I'm going to be so old in the year 2000. And now I am dealing with people that were actually born in the year that I was wanting to get to. It's just the whole numbers thing in the years. Wow, what's happening? Anyway, sorry.
Anyway,
2000.
So Coach Schnellenberger came to Boca Raton. He became the king of Boca Raton as far as college sports was concerned. And with my association with FAU, with the Comic-Cons, Geek Fest Florida that we ran over there, and our involvement in various entertainment ventures with FAU, I came across the man a few times. He's one of my being a staunch Miami Dolphin fan. He's legendary for a Miami sports figure. Okay, so and here. I caught up with him at Hooters, and that was look at this. That's 450-pound fat ass Gonzo.
Let me tell you something. He was a big man too.
He's a big dude.
Yeah, that's not a little guy next to you. Most guys don't look like that next to you.
But Coach had already acted like he may have had a couple at that point. Well, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I bet you played ball." I'm like, "Of course I play ball, Coach. Of course. Even if you just put me in pads and stick me out there and just stand there and get in the way, I'm somebody that would cause the game to go around him." But he was always accessible. He was always a very classy man. Was a very nice man. And 87, good long run. Yeah. He stomped the Terra. He made his mark on athletics, on the lives of young men and young people and young athletes of both sexes.
If you got a statue, then you've made it. So yeah, he's got a statue.
I think he's got a statue at two different universities, University of Miami and Louisville.
And he's in the College Football Hall of Fame, is he not?
Yes,
too?
I'm certain he is.
Yeah, so he's got a few statues in a few places. So he is definitely he's definitely made his mark.
So mad respect for Coach. Yeah. Okay, well,
aliens.
Then here comes the end. Aliens.
Woo-hoo! Aliens.
What's your alien thing?
Well, no, I mean we talk about it all the time.
I'm going to kick back and
I'm just giving you the little.
Maybe I'll go outside and throw Russ off the balcony.
Just there's stuff out there. Just look at the internet. The biggest thing is all this stuff coming out, I think in June, where they're going to declassify a lot of stuff. And of course,
you just can't wait for that.
Well, they're getting out ahead of it, and anything that's mentioned in relation to this release of documents is like, well, the public's going to be confused about most of it. They're not going to understand it, and that just to me is I don't know, kind of like the writing on the wall where it says that we're going to go ahead and kind of limit what it is that we're going to show you, or it's already been somewhat maybe doctored or controlled so that you really can't put the pieces together still. There's some gray areas, and I don't know, dude. Listen, wake up. They're here.
Okay, I'm going to get a little nerdy on you
Go
right
watch
now.
Project Blue Book.
Right. I'm going to get a little nerdy on you right now. Because of the biodiversity, meaning the different types of life forms on our planet, okay, whether they be insect, mammal, whether they be fishes, birds
that we've discovered.
Yeah,
which could be
which we don't know everything about.
Could be
our
less of what we haven't discovered. Think about that perspective. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Aquatic mammals.
Go ahead.
But here's my question: do we actually think that extraterrestrials, beings from other planets, are going to be bipedal? They are going to have 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head, like we are, like the human model.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we, in our hubris, as humans, as we have thought to ourselves that we are on that pedestal of reality, that if there are any other beings on other planets, that they're going to be bipedal?
I would change that from pedestal of perception.
Right.
Because it's not the reality. We don't know the reality.
Are they going to be like the tentacle monsters of Independence Day?
I think the beauty of it is that they could be anything that we don't know of right now, or that we may perceive to be true. Maybe they're green, maybe they're blue, maybe they're tall, maybe they're short, maybe they're fat, maybe they got 10
jellyfish.
eyes. Whatever it is, it doesn't have to be. Or it could be all of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
We don't know, and that's the beauty of it, I think, and that's the part that keeps everybody so engaged. At least the people that want to know, or at least want to look for the truth and aren't blindly guided by whatever it is that they think that they may or not believe. I believe only because, as a Christian, in the Bible it says that we were made in the image of man. I get that. But it's a vague...
Man was made in the image of God.
Well, okay, that's what I meant to say. But again, it's a very vague... When you say an image of something, I've looked at my image sometimes and gotten scared because it's a certain lighting or it's a certain way I've turned my head or whatever. Okay, point is that it's a lot. There's a lot of room for interpretation there when you say image of, because the image of is your image of, my image of, everybody's image of. It's certainly different.
I've looked in the mirror naked and I wonder if God ever got this fat.
Yeah,
it's like, does God get fat?
Again, these are all subjective type things.
Right.
Okay.
Well, does God have to cut the carbs out of his diet? Does God have to take it
At
easy
this
on
point,
the,
probably not. He's probably got it figured out. Yeah, he knows Pio doesn't work, so he's not on that program.
I mean, is God allowed to eat as much Publix fried chicken as he wants? Because we all know Publix fried chicken is the best fried chicken ever.
Man, it's good.
I mean,
the rotisserie chicken's pretty good too.
Yeah, the rotisserie chicken's awesome.
Yeah, so
let me tell you, when I was lifting hard 4 or 5 days a week, I would stop at Publix and I'd get a rotisserie chicken, and it wouldn't make it to the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd destroy it.
Really good.
But enough of the Green Empire.
All right, so segue back to aliens.
Back to aliens.
Yeah, I mean, I just think we're being naive to think that we're alone.
As long as they're not spiders.
Numbers again, I go back to numbers because it's easy and they don't lie. Everything we've seen, everything we've heard, everything we've read, everything they've kept, everything they've told us, only going to have one, just one, have to be what it really is. And then it's a game changer. And then we all have to believe. And that's just, we don't have a choice at that point. So just one out of the millions and millions of articles of information and documentation and sightings and testimonies and
kind of like Deshaun Watson.
And
only one has to be right.
Only one. And he only has 14. So, I mean, and look at what we're fighting against, you alien non-believers. So, yeah, they're out there. They're here. They're out there. They're everywhere. Just deal with it. If it hasn't affected you now, the chances of it ever affecting you are slim. So you don't have to worry about it. Just acknowledge it. Be a realist. Come to the table.
Well, have you ever seen the movie Prometheus?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
That would be the alien race introducing their DNA into our ecosystem, which eventually turns into humans. I would like to write a science fiction comedy about a group of alien humanoids that use the Earth as a vacation spot. And one of them turns out to have a fetish for having sex with monkeys.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's awkward.
Exactly.
That's awkward.
And then, I'm a disgusting animal.
That's awkward.
Yeah. Well, it's more than awkward. I mean, and these guys they'll be snowboarders and they'll be kite sailors, kite surfers, and they'll be action junkies and everything like that, which would explain how humans got to be that way also. Mm-hmm. Okay. But on the other hand, there's this one guy, Dave, who disappears for days at a time.
Right.
And he always seems to disappear into the rainforest for days at a time. Why is that? Why do you always run off into the jungle, Dave?
Is that where the monkeys are?
I guess that's where the monkeys are.
That's so weird.
He's a sick bastard.
I'm just putting it together, but that's so weird.
Well, I'm weird. What do you want? It's a comedy.
My advice: don't run into the jungle, Dave. Don't run into the jungle.
Stay out of the jungle,
Don't
Dave.
run
All
into the
right,
jungle.
that's going to wrap us up because now we're starting to get into having interspecies sex with primates. Alien primate interspecies sex.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the show hasn't. That's what happens when we start 22 minutes late.
That needs its own stream.
Yeah,
that conversation.
Well, no streams, no streams. All right, so on behalf of myself and the Maz, say goodbye to the nice people.
See you later.
Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being patient and waiting for us to get the actual technical faculties under control, which was kind of ridiculous, but I digress. You can, of course, catch the Maz at MLB Joy Us, and believe me, he is Major League Baseball joyous right now. And, of course, you can search at Gonzo Radio, Gonzo Radio Show, Gonzo Radio Sports Desk, anywhere on your social media platforms, and you'll find us. We're there. You can't run. You can't hide. I'm Big Daddy Gonzo. That's the Maz, and we are out of here as soon as I can get the last thing on there. There you go. Okay, and we're out. Peace. Thanks.